Well guys, another year, another iPhone set of comparisons. I'm going to have a bunch of these coming out, so keep it locked down on the channel so you don't miss those if you're even interested in them. These literally get like 100 views the first day, and then by the end of the year they get like hundreds of thousands. So I know there's a huge interest of people wanting to see these specific phones and how they compare in, different years. And today we're going to be talking about the iPhone 8 Plus and how it compares to the iPhone 7 Plus and vice versa, looking at the pros, the cons of owning both of them, the longevity of them. And these phones are super interesting because I feel like there's going to be a lot of similarities between these phones. And there's a lot of first for both of these phones as well. And right now they're both sitting at different, price ranges, especially in the used market. The 7 Plus, you can buy it around the $250 price mark on Amazon. For the iPhone 8 Plus, they're selling for around $340. So there definitely is quite a bit of percentage wise, difference between the prices. But I will say whether you have the 7 Plus or an 8 Plus, they're both very good phones. Still, they're both getting software updates for a little bit longer. And there's only a year difference between these phones, but within that year, there were quite a bit of changes. So for the 7 Plus, it was released in 2016. The iPhone 8 Plus was released in 2017. And looking on the outside, really, there's, they both have the 5.5-inch panel on the front. Some said the iPhone 8 Plus's panel was a little bit better, but I think that might only be because of the True Tone display that was brought on it. I don't think the 7 Plus's display is that bad. They both lack the headphone jack. The 7 Plus was the first to bring that out, but we still have Touch ID on the front, which is something I really, really like. Both home buttons, there's really no difference in the bezel or anything like that. On the back is one of the biggest differences though. We have a glass back on the iPhone 8 Plus. With the iPhone 7 Plus, we have that standard, whatever matte texture they use on some iPhone 7 Pluses. But my favorite iPhone ever, probably design-wise, was probably the iPhone 7 Plus Jet Black. That one was one of my favorite design phones, and if it's between a Jet Black 7 Plus in design or an iPhone 8 Plus, I would probably pick that 7 Plus Jet Black. But most probably, I don't have a Jet Black version anymore, and those are sometimes hard to find. Those are usually one of the first ones to get out. So the iPhone 8 Plus in terms of design is much better. We have wireless charging on the iPhone 8 Plus as well, which is really, really cool. However, one thing to note, the 8 Plus with that glass back, it's really easy to break, and as you can see with mine is broken on both of them. It's not really a big deal, but it is what it is. The 7 Plus did not have a glass back, but no wireless charging on that either. In terms of design, like I said, they're both similar, but with that glass back on the 8 Plus, we're able to do wireless charging, which is a humongous plus for that phone. They both have dual camera setups, so they both look kind of the same, but that capability of having wireless charging is a humongous pro, and being in 2020, every single phone has a wireless charging. Literally every toaster has wireless charging nowadays, and the 7 Plus did not have that in 2017 or 2016 for that matter. That's a humongous thing to note. So with the 8 Plus, you have that capability. So design-wise, like I said, they both look the same, even though the wireless charging on the 8 Plus definitely makes it that much better in, every single way, pretty much looking forward. They both have IP67 dust and water resistance. You can go 1 meter of water for 30 minutes, and that's really pretty much it on the outside. Nothing too crazy. They both have Force Touch, a lot of similarity there. Both panels are almost the same. But like I said, you do have that. But like I said, with the iPhone 8 Plus, design is a little bit better overall. So that kind of covers it up on the outside. Now, one of the biggest changes are definitely going to be with the software. With the iPhone 7 Plus, it started off with iOS 10. With the iPhone 8 Plus, it started off with iOS 11. So technically speaking, even though the 7 Plus is 1 year less older, or it's 1 year older, you would think that technically they would end at different time rates. They would, the 8 Plus would definitely outlast it. But I'm thinking, and I could be totally wrong, and I probably am wrong because I'm wrong all the time, but I do feel like the iPhone 7 Plus will match the iPhone 8 Plus's software lifecycle, pretty much, like we've seen with the iPhone 5S and some other phones back in the day. I truly feel like that might happen, and the reason I say that is because with the iPod Touch 7th generation that just came out, it uses the same chipset as the iPhone 7 Plus, so I feel like because of that, Apple might extend, that specific version of software with the iPhone 7 Plus's version of software and make it so those specific devices, match up, and the 7th gen iPod doesn't necessarily, end early in terms of software. So if they're already going to do it, all those A10 Fusion chip devices could, get an extra version of software, which would be really, really cool. The iPhone 8 Plus, though, software-wise is still very great. It's the same thing as the 7 Plus. We're on iOS 13.3 right now. Apple is really taking their time with these software updates right now, so we haven't gotten an update in a minute. But in terms of the software, that really pretty much covers it. The really cool thing about both these phones is that you do have that checkra jailbreak capability on both of these devices, which is really cool. So that's something the 7 Plus has, as well as the iPhone 8 Plus. So you could get either of these phones and feel like you still have a great device, with all those cool jailbreak tweaks and everything. I've even made videos talking about specifically for these type of older designed iPhones, some really cool tweaks and things that you can have. I might link that in a card or below, I might even forget, but if you just type in simple Alpaca jailbreak, you might find it that way. So in terms of the software, that really pretty much covers it. Now hitting on the performance, both these phones are kind of similar, but not really. On the 7 Plus, we have the Apple A10 Fusion chip, a quad-core CPU, and there were 3 different models of the iPhone 7 Plus, and all those models had 3 gigabytes of RAM. The iPhone 8 Plus had the Apple A11 Bionic chip, a hexa-core CPU, and only had 2 models, and both those models had 3 gigabytes of RAM as well. The 7 Plus was actually the first iPhone to bring 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is really cool. So, every single iPhone since then, cutting off the iPhone XS and so forth, the 10R included, has the 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is cool, except the iPhone 8. And I will tell you, in terms of performance, they're both very similar. When you're using them day by day, I don't really think you're going to notice a humongous difference between the both. The 7 Plus is still pretty decent for its age. Yes, it is a little bit slower here and there. The only times I've seen it slow are sometimes when I'm loading up an app and then I kind of have to go back sometimes. RAM management could be better on the 7 Plus for sure. I think that has more to do with the A10 Fusion chip rather than the RAM, because the RAM is the same on both these devices. And I actually compared both of these phones to the iPhone 11, and I saw that RAM management wise, the 7 Plus almost matched the iPhone 11s, which is not good because the 11 has really bad RAM management for now. But the iPhone 8 Plus was doing better than the iPhone 11, which is really cool. So in terms of actual performance, once you have the app loaded and everything, they both might be around the same, but I do think that the iPhone 8 Plus is the overall noticeably better phone for sure, and I think there's a little bit of a noticeable amount of difference. I think if you're using both phones, you're going to be fine. You're not going to complain about them too much, but the iPhone 8 Plus will definitely do you better in terms of the longevity of both of these phones. So what I will tell you is, in performance wise, the iPhone 7 Plus is right up there with the great phones. 3 gigabytes of RAM is a lot for an iPhone. It's not a lot, but it's good. And it definitely will get the job done, and it'll definitely last you as long as you basically put it up to task, or when you exceed your performance levels, then you can go to an iPhone 8 Plus. That's a really good performing phone for the time being. They're still selling it in the Apple stores too, which is really cool. So in terms of performance, I think that covers it. The 8 Plus definitely is better, but it's not like worlds above the 7 Plus, but it is noticeably better overall. Now to talking about the camera, both these phones actually have 2 12 megapixel sensors. The 7 Plus has a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens, and the same exact setup we have on the iPhone 8 Plus as well. The main big difference might be the video resolution frame rates you can film in. Basically just think that the 7 Plus can do half the amount as the iPhone 8 Plus. We have 60 frames per second in 4K on the 8 Plus, but only 30 frames on 4K on the 7 Plus, 240 at 1080p on the 8 Plus, only 120 on 1080p on the 7 Plus, and so on and so forth. And in terms of the features, almost exactly the same. Portrait mode, all those cool little things. There's really not that many features to talk about, but that's pretty much the same. The front camera, 7 megapixels on both, so they're almost exactly identically the same camera. But that back camera with those video resolutions, that's a really cool little thing, and I do like that a lot. Having that capability at 4K 60 frames is really definitely going to future-proof you. There's really not that many phones that are doing above that. I feel like this wave of new phones in 2020, the S20, the iPhone 12, all those phones, they're going to be doing some crazy things. Apparently 8K even at 60 or something like that, I don't remember, but it's going to be some crazy frame rates we're going to be able to film in. So between both of these, nothing too crazy, not a humongous difference, but you do have that cool video resolution frame rates increase on the 8 Plus. So if you're into that, if you need that capability, that is, or if you even want to future proof yourself, you have that capability on the iPhone 8 Plus, which is a really, really cool thing. Now ending it off with the battery life, this is kind of like a two-way street, and it's kind of weird. So the 7 Plus technically has the bigger battery, so has a 2900 milliamp battery. The iPhone 8 Plus has a 2691 milliamp battery, so about a 200 to 300 milliamp difference. Actually, it's about over a 300 milliamp difference between them now that I look at it. And so you would think that the iPhone 7 Plus has the better battery life, and it does, so that's a really important thing to note. But the iPhone 8 Plus has wireless charging, which is technically a battery feature, so I lump it up in this segment. And so even though the 7 Plus has that better battery life, the overall better battery features and everything combined is with the iPhone 8 Plus. You have that wireless charging, and I think some people might be willing to give up a little bit of their battery life if they're willing to gain wireless charging, which is probably like the most common thing in a lot of these phones. That used to be a luxury feature, but now it's common and a lot of people still do that. So in terms of both of them, I hate to say it, but this might be one of the only cases where the better battery and the bigger battery isn't necessarily the winner, but that has nothing to do with anything besides the wireless charging. So in terms of both, and to kind of sum up this video, which one should you pick up in 2020? This is what I'll tell you, okay? I would probably most of the time tell you, get the cheaper phone, get the 7 Plus, it'll do you better, whatever the case is. But I don't think the 7 Plus is technically the better device right now because of the amount of problems that this phone is specifically having. Both the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus have tons of issues, and I would hate to recommend somebody a phone where it might get faulty or anything like that. If you own it currently and you've been able to make it fine, my specific device was perfectly fine. I had no issues with my 7 Plus when I was running it, so there were no issues there. But some people, I would hate to recommend a phone and for some people to just to mess it up, or them to get a defective device and they would have just gotten an A plus and saved time that way. So longevity wise and future wise, I would probably recommend people to buy an iPhone 8 Plus. If you can get a 7 Plus and you think you can make it work and everything, that's fine. But again, there are some weird issues going with these 7 Plus. I've had 7s that had issues, and I've heard the 7 Pluses are the same way. So in this case, they're both very identical, almost the same phones, but the 8 Plus definitely is the better phone every which way you look at it. And that pretty much covers it, guys. If you have any questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.